what can you do to make sure you don't spend a whole lot more than you want to. Getty Stewart is a professional home economist. She's also the author of the Prairie Fruit Cookbook, the essential guide for picking, preserving, and preparing fruit. She joins us live from Winnipeg. So let's begin with fruit. If you go into a grocery store, it's so easy to get used to seeing strawberries and raspberries in January and forgetting that a lot of the stuff that we're buying is coming from the States and it's costing us a lot more right now. How do we manage the food bill when we see those prices rising?
Well, I think one of the strategies that we can do is think and buy locally, eating seasonally, especially when it comes to items in the produce section. So bypassing those fresh blueberries and strawberries, which probably are lacking a little bit in flavor anyway at this point and are quite expensive. So looking more at the local seasonal produce that we have available. Canadian apples and pears are a great option in the fruit section. Our carrots, potatoes, onions, cabbage, winter squash, those are great Canadian options in the produce section, as well as mushrooms.
You know, when people get flyers, if they still get flyers in their mail, I know I do, you can be overwhelmed by individual stores, the big chains, everybody's got a special on the front. Is there any kind of guiding rule of thumb about where you can find the best deals?
You know, it's a good practice just to get to really know your grocery store. You might want to try out some of the no-frills stores that are popping up. And if you do have the chance to go through the flyers, I often don't, but just when I go into a grocery store, I will take a quick look at the board and take advantage of whatever I see there. So I go in with a meal plan, a grocery list, but I'm also very flexible when it comes to getting into the produce aisle or any aisle and saying, oh my gosh, this is a much better bargain. I'm going to revise my meal plan.
How does meal planning work when you're trying to keep an eye on how much you're spending?
Well, if, for example, I'm planning for the week ahead, I know that I'm going to have a chicken dinner on Sunday night, then I can strategize and think, okay, I'm going to use that chicken throughout the rest of the week as well. So I may have chicken quesadillas one day, and then I'll probably be able to extend that to a chicken soup as well. So I'm sort of focusing my attention on that first big meal and then planning for the rest of the week. And I'm planning to use my leftovers and making that part of my meals for the week. And we do know that we as Canadian consumers do end up wasting a lot of our food because we're not using our leftovers or we overbuy. And so that kind of strategy can really help us manage that a little bit better.
It's true. I always feel terrible when I find spoiled food at the back of the fridge because I overbought forgetting to meal plan. Lots of things now that you can get on your phone, mobile apps that are supposed to help you with deals. What are your thoughts on those?
You know, I've been looking into them. I haven't found one that I find really effective for me to use on a regular basis. So I keep looking at them. But myself, just like many shoppers out there, I don't want to invest that much time into the research aspect. I would rather go into the store and use savvy cooking techniques back at home. So I know, hey, you know what, broccoli is a lot better buy than cauliflower. I'm going to choose that, and then I'm going to work on a recipe at home and work on that end of things. So I haven't found the app that's a good fit for me.
Now, the author, as you are, of your book, the Prairie Fruit Cookbook, the essential guide for picking, preserving, and preparing fruit, tells me that you think we should probably all be doing a bit more of that.
Yeah, you know, we have the opportunity, and I think what we're experiencing now with the Canadian dollar and what's happening, when we import a lot of our food, we are very much dependent on others' economies and what's happening elsewhere. So the more we look locally and support our local economies and what's growing here, making use of what's available, growing in our very own backyards and using that. And I think that's some of the food skills we may have lost over the years. So there's this apple tree in my backyard. Exactly what am I going to do with 200 pounds of apples, or how do I use that? How do I make my own applesauce? Or and skills like that is another option for us to adopt and think more carefully about.
And last question, I mean, there's this assumption that if you're spending less, you're not eating as well. Is that necessarily true?
Absolutely not. That's actually a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, because I think it is possible to eat well despite the high prices. It does, however, require a different mindset. We have to think a little bit differently. We do have to become a little bit more savvy when we're shopping, as well as when we're in our kitchen, and be a little bit more creative in our meal planning, in thinking about how am I going to make this meal last an extra time. Maybe I can substitute some of my protein, which often happens to be a big part of our grocery bill, and so maybe I can replace that. Maybe I can use different cuts of meat. Maybe I can use more legumes, some split peas, lentils, peas, those kinds of things.
Getty Stewart, thanks so much for joining us. Made
You're
me
welcome.
hungry talking to you.
Yeah.
She is a professional home economist who joined us from Winnipeg.